What is up, you guys? Welcome to Illumination Lab. My name is Justin, and today we'll be kicking off part 1 of our character design. This character will exclusively be made within Cinema4d and Redshift, so if you're looking for something like that, this series is going to be for you. In part 1, we'll start constructing the head portion of our character, and we'll slowly work off of our headpiece. I'm excited for this one. This is going to be a fun one today, so without further delay, let's get into it. Alright, so hopping into our reference section for today, what is really important about these references is we need something to kind of work off of, especially when it is any sort of character or even, I guess, architecture or landscape in general. It is really important to kind of have some sort of references. So I have a few of these here. What I liked about these specifically is the amount of detail, and I really liked a lot of the metal and the cables. And so what's really cool about this piece is we're just going to kind of create something different within this piece. I wanted to create some sort of metal cyborg character, but also kind of bring in some almost like some sort of like witch or like a witch doctor sort of thing within our character here. And so I thought it would be interesting to kind of combine both of a more primitive sort of character with more of a futuristic sort of character and kind of combine that together. So these were primarily the references I used on this, and then of course we kind of go in a different direction, as you may have seen within our renders here. And so again, we initially start with these references, and these references definitely help us out with their overall design or just the kind of concept of a cyborg-esque character. But I think eventually we go into a new direction. But that's what's so fun about this process, especially if this isn't for a specific company or entity. You could kind of let the character kind of create itself within the process. So that's pretty much it for the references. Somewhat short for the references today, but again, we're just kind of using these as somewhat of a foundation or some sort of idea to kind of play with. And we do take a lot of elements from these references, but as you again may see, that we kind of create this and make this into our own. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the references. Let's hop into Cinema4d and get this going. Alright, so jumping right into Cinema4d, what we're going to do is bring up this puppet here, and this puppet's going to be a good foundation for our design for our character. And so we'll just slowly work off of this. Initially, of course, I'm going to bring in a Redshift camera and just set up a good perspective with this, just so I can kind of hop in between cameras depending on what angle we need to look at. So I'm just going to do that for both the side portion of our head and then the front angle as well too. So next up, what I'll do is go into this mesh and unlock this head, just so we can start to edit this head a little bit more. And then I'm just going to copy and paste, and this is to really just make sure that we have an extra copy of this head just in case we make some sort of mistake, and then we'll just take it from there. So next thing I'm going to do is just right click on our head and then increase the subdivisions here and hit OK. Cool. So we have a lot more subdivisions to work with, and then of course I'm just going to copy and paste that again just in case we need to go back into our original head. So first, I'm going to start out with some sort of cool design on the side of the head portion here. So I'm just going to start by highlighting around this ear area. And then just hit delete. And really with this initial part here, what I'm trying to do is just get a overall concept of what this character may look like. And so I'm just going to kind of highlight this area here and see what kind of cool design we can get out of it. And really with this, what we're leaning towards a little bit more is more of a biomechanical cross between some sort of witch character and also some sort of cyborg. And so it's kind of a interesting blend between the two, but I just thought that was something that was a little bit different and something that you don't find too much anymore. And so I'm just trying to figure out what kind of designs I want to make within the head, just because, you know, I really at this point don't know what direction I'm going to go in. Of course, we do have some of our references that we can work off of, but really I'm just kind of playing around with a few different shapes and looks, and then I'll just kind of take it from there depending on what it kind of looks like. And then of course we always have the ability to adjust here. So all right, so what I'm going to do for this head is, this head is very thin, so I'm just going to grab a thicken deformer here, and then I'll just kind of throw that into our head here. And then I'm just going to reduce down the size a little bit just so it's not as inflated. And then I'll just zoom in here just to see the thickness of our skull here. That's a little too big, so I'll just kind of reduce this down. Cool, so that looks good for now, so we'll just kind of keep that as is. So next up, what I'll do is just kind of work my way down the skull here, and so I'll just highlight this here and press delete on these. And then just kind of continue down this area here. And really with this headpiece, similar to our references here, there's just quite a bit of stuff going on within the head portion. And so I'm just trying to cut out some segments here to help recreate that specific look. But really at this portion, I'm just trying out different looks. And then I'm just going to kind of go back and forth depending on what I kind of like the most here. So I'll just continue to play around with this and delete some of these edges here. Now next, what I'm going to do is just select this ear here and just delete it completely. And as you can see here, I did turn on symmetry. So what's nice about that is whatever I do on one side here, that's going to reflect over on this other side. And really, again, I'm just trying to kind of piece out a few different shapes here, just because we'll have a lot of different things going on within the head itself, whether it's more biomechanical or if we bring in a few other pieces too. So I'm just trying to kind of create some interesting, almost like vantage points to see inside of the head, but also kind of give it a cool design at the same time too. So and kind of rotating the camera here, this looks pretty good so far. I think we'll continue to roll with this, but yeah, it's looking pretty good so far, so we'll just keep going on here. So next up, what I'm going to do is just highlight this nose piece here, and then I'll just go ahead and delete that portion. And really with this, what I'm thinking about doing is bringing in some sort of skull piece here, just to kind of create something that is a little bit more interesting. just because you don't really see a lot of bone and mechanical pieces that much together. And so if I could kind of unite those two in a really interesting way, we'll get a really cool concept with our character here. So all right, so I'm just going to give that a quick save, and then I'm just going to jump into the Redshift library here and bring up our skeleton here. And then what I'll do is just grab our skeleton skull and jaw, copy and paste, bring it over. And then I'm just going to increase the segments on this one as well, just to make sure it's a little bit more higher poly for us, so it's a nice kind of rounded edge to our skull here. And then I'll just throw in a null here, rename it skull, and throw in our skull and jaw into our null. And then I'm just going to kind of bring this up to the face area here, and then just kind of adjust it. I'm going to increase the size here and rotate this down a little bit just to kind of line it up with our original head here. And really, again, I'm just trying to line this up. So I'm going to rotate this and kind of bring this back a bit. Cool. So that looks good back there, but let me see what this looks up front maybe. Just adjust the size one more time. And there's a lot of really cool looks we could kind of go with depending on how we place the skull. I'm just going to increase it again and really adjust it here. And then maybe just kind of push it up a little bit more. So that's pretty interesting. What I'll do is maybe throw some color onto this just to kind of see what this looks like, and then we'll kind of gauge it from there. Let me actually reduce down the size a bit. And then just kind of line this up. Cool, so I'm just going to go into Grayscale Gorilla here. Now I'm going to go into the tech portion of our materials here, and I think I'll find a few different colors here. Let's go with this white. And then this other one here. I'll throw in a quick save. Now I'm going to throw in this white onto our head here, and then throw in this black into our skull. And then what I'll do is bring up the Redshift render view, press play, hop into perspective, and that's what it's looking like so far. So very rough. We'll throw in a dome light here just to kind of see what this looks like. Okay, so that's a good start so far. It is very rough still, so we'll just kind of go back into the head here and just kind of delete some of these pieces off here. And then I'll kind of zoom in and really just kind of highlight this chunk here. And delete. And then same with down here as well. I'm just going to highlight these and all of this here and delete this. And so I think it would be somewhat cool if we kind of see the entirety of the skull here, or maybe just the majority of the skull. And so just so the viewer could kind of know a little bit more what this character looks like. So I'll kind of show the skull a little bit more, and then we'll kind of bounce around between what we like here. And then there are these spots here where I extruded this out, so I'm just going to go back in and delete these. And then I'm just going to kind of highlight the mouth area and hit delete, and just kind of work my way up the cheek here. And then I do need to take off this bottom portion here, and that's the chin. And then I'm just going to kind of clean up the neck area here. Okay, so if I turn on our original head here, we can kind of bring that back. And then we see right here in the render view what that looks like. And so that's kind of an interesting look there. I'm going to give it a quick save, and then what I'll do is just reduce down that head size here, just so we can kind of see a little bit more of what we carved out into the head here. And this area looks a little bit weird, so I'm just going to kind of highlight this and delete this real quick. And then just kind of clean up this area. And then delete these here. And then I'll just kind of delete all the extrude edges here and just kind of clean up this area as well. And then what I'll do is just kind of play around with our head position here, just to see what kind of looks we can get. And actually I don't like this portion at the jaw area, so I'm just going to delete this here. And then I'm just going to go to our bottom layer of our head and start deleting some of this out. And then also at the top of the lip and right beneath the nose as well. And just kind of work my way around the mouth again. And really at this part, I'm trying to kind of figure out what I want to do with the mouth area. I think having the skull present there and kind of open is a really cool look, and so I'm just trying to figure out a way of trying to represent the skull and the face portion that looks aesthetically pleasing here. So I'm just going to kind of continue on. Maybe what I'll do here is hop into Grayscale Gorilla again and try to find a few different colors here. Let me see what this rose gold is going to look like. I'm just going to apply it to the head. And that's kind of an interesting look there, especially you have the whites and the black, which is a nice contrast. And then this rose gold definitely makes it a little bit different looking for sure. So just to see what our colors are looking like, and then also kind of our character in a different light space as well. And then I can kind of bring this up and back, and then I'll just decrease this light. And then what I'll do is just kind of create a backdrop here real quick. So I'll bring in a plane and then just kind of increase the size here. Actually, let me delete the plane. What I'll do is bring in one of our curves here, and that's going to cover the entire scene. And then I'm just going to throw a white onto our canvas. And then I'll throw this into our front perspective here just to see what the face looks like. I really don't like the bumpy texture that's coming with our color here. So what I'm going to do is just jump back in, and then if I could find a just clean looking black color here, that would be pretty cool, especially a glossy one. Let me try this one here, and then what I'll do is just take off this color from our skull and then just throw this black one in. And cool, that looks a lot more smooth, and I like how it doesn't have all of those ripples, especially on the forehead portion of our skull here. So, and actually what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste our skull here, and then I will put it underneath our original skull. And so maybe by doing this, I could kind of create a lot of either contrast or some highlights when it comes to the skull here. So I'm just going to kind of go in and delete a few of these portions here. And before I do that, I'm just going to take our bottom skull here and throw in a rose gold color, just so we can kind of see the rose gold highlights when we're deleting some of the segments from our skull here. So I'm just going to go around the eye real quick. Let me just kind of set up this camera here, and then I'll just kind of go around this eye and then hit delete, and then I'll just go around this nose portion here and delete this as well. And so if you look in the render view as I do this, you can slowly start to see the rose gold come in, and so that's creating a really cool highlight and almost a contrast as well to the skull here. Let me turn the light off here real quick in our viewport, and then I'll just go down the nose portion here just so we can kind of see that rose gold come through here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with our eye portion. I'm just going to highlight all of this and delete this. And then same here, just kind of delete all of these. And then when we jump into our frontal view, we can kind of see those immediate changes here. So that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to kind of continue on with the eye portion here. Next up, I'm going to kind of work within this nose here. So I'm just going to highlight all of this within the nose. And just delete that. And then I'll do the same thing around this mouth here. And then the bottom here as well. Next up, what I'll do is go into the Redshift library here, bring in another puppet here. And then I'm just going to take the head out of this puppet and just delete the rest of the puppet here. And since our character is going to be somewhat complex, we're going to have a lot of different layers. And so we'll just use this as another layer of our head here. And then we'll just kind of adjust this depending on how we want everything to look here. But what I'll do with this head is I'll just kind of line this up. There is a few different ways I can kind of go about this, but what I'm going to do is just kind of line it up to the face a little bit more, covering our skull portion, and really just kind of adjust this here. What I'll do is go in and cut out a few pieces similar to what we did with our bottom layers, but we'll just kind of play with it and see what we can do here. So again, we're just going to start with the mouth, highlight a few of these and press delete here. And then I'm just going to do all of that to the front end of our face here. And then I'm just going to kind of create a line near the ear here, just kind of show all of that work that we already did there. And then I'm just going to delete the ear as well. And then just kind of delete this real quick. And then what I'll do is just delete this jaw portion here. And then the same thing up at the side of the face, kind of near the eyes. I'm just going to delete a few pieces here. And then just to see what this looks like, I'm going to throw in a different color to the bottom layer here just to see kind of what that looks like on top of each other. And so kind of an interesting look. It does seem a bit messy or a bit confusing here. So we'll probably adjust that here shortly. But yeah, this looks a bit messy. So what we'll do is just kind of hide everything else and we'll just kind of work on our skull and take this from here. So what I'm going to do is go along this teeth area and then just hit delete here. And then just kind of work my way down the jaw here. And really with this, what I'm trying to do is I want to make sure that the skull is looking good before we kind of do anything else. So that's one of the reasons why I took off the head here real quick, just to make sure that the skull is looking good. And so sometimes if you have a few different layers on, it's kind of hard to kind of work within the piece. And so I'm just going to kind of hide the rest of our pieces there and really just kind of clean up the skull area. So I'm just, again, going around the jawline and deleting some of our segments here, just so we can kind of see a little bit more of the rose gold kind of poke into the skull area here. So now I'm going to go around the eye again. And hit delete. So next up, what I'm going to do is just bring in a cube here. And then what I'll do with this cube is just kind of shrink this down. And then I'll line this up to the top portion of our head here. And with this, I'm thinking that this could be somewhat interesting if we do some sort of bull here. And so what I'll do is just shrink down our cube, and then I'll increase the segments. And then what I'll do is throw in a bend deformer here. And with this bend deformer, what I'll do is just hit keep length. I'm just going to adjust the strength and this angle here, and I'm just going to kind of rotate this around and kind of move the bend around a little bit, just kind of make a really interesting shape here. And then I'm just going to increase our segments again and really just play around with this strength to kind of create a weird look here. I'm going to bring in a bull, take our skull and our cube, and then put this into the bull here. And really with our cube, I'm just trying to make a interesting, somewhat geometric shape, but just kind of an interesting shape in general. So I'll just kind of rotate our bend here just to see what kind of look we can get. And that looks kind of cool here. I'll just kind of continue to play with this here. And of course, as I move this, you can see all the different effects that it has with the bull. And that's actually kind of cool, especially with the piece in the back. It looks like it's kind of strapped to the skull here, so that's kind of a cool look here. Cool. So similar to some of our references here, if you guys remember, some of our references had a lot of different tubes sticking both within the skull or outside of the skull. So we're just going to kind of create the same thing here by bringing in a cylinder, and then I'm just going to throw in a bend deformer as well. And then I'm just going to bring this cylinder down a bit in size, and then I'll just kind of adjust this here, and then I'll bring this cylinder up, and then I'm just going to increase the segments here and then just play with the strength of our bend here. And then just kind of bring this up to the skull area. And then I'm just going to reduce down the size again, just because it is a little too thick here. So I'll just reduce that down a bit. And then what I'll do is just reduce down the height here. and then kind of move it across the skull. So I think what would be kind of cool is if we have this tube kind of going through this this jaw area here. And so I'm just going to kind of play around with the size here and the bend just to see what I can do as far as the shape goes around this jaw portion of our skull. And really, I need to kick up the segments a little bit more. And then I'm just going to bring our cylinder over here and adjust the radius and height again. And then what I'll do is just kind of line this up here. So I'll have it kind of going into the skull. And then what I'll do is just kind of copy and paste and bring this back and kind of adjust this here. And then I'll throw in the symmetry just to make sure this is happening on this other side as well. And cool. And then what I'll do is just copy and paste our symmetries real quick just to make sure that we can bring in some of those cylinders again, and then just kind of bring this down. And then I'm just going to adjust some of these. So what I'm going to do now is Redshift has a cool spot in its library here where it has a few different kit bash assets. So I'm just going to type in kit bash. You get a lot of these different metal pieces and designs here. So this will be kind of cool to bring in to our scene, especially since we don't have to kind of create a lot of this from scratch. This will kind of help the process be a little bit quicker, but we still have the freedom to kind of design this to be somewhat of our own here. So first off, what I'm going to do is just take our shape here, and then what I'm going to do is just reduce down the size, rotate this here, kind of put this around this temple area here. And then I'm just going to bring up the Redshift render view, press play, and we can kind of see what that looks like here. Cool, so let's hop back in and grab a few more pieces. This one will be pretty cool, especially around the ear area. And then what I'll do is bring in this piece as well, and we'll just kind of incorporate these somehow. So for this piece, what I'm going to do is just rotate this and then just shrink this down to size a little bit more. And then I'll just kind of place this here kind of where the ear would be essentially, and then kind of shrink this down again, and then kind of just lean this up against the skull here. And what I'll do is, since we deleted our previous head here, what I'll do is go into the library again, pull up a puppet, and then we'll just kind of take this head here, and then just kind of adjust the head to our skull area here. And then what I'm going to do is just bring in a glass material here to our head, just kind of see what that looks like here. Again, we're kind of in the beginning stages of testing things out just to see what it looks like aesthetically, just because I really don't know exactly what this is going to look like at this point. But during this process, I'll just try a few different things just to kind of see what everything's looking like, and we'll essentially take it from there. So that's what's so fun about this process, is you can have some really cool references and have somewhat of an idea of what direction you're going into. But I really enjoy actually going through the process. And again, I don't necessarily know what it looks like from the beginning. I just kind of let the process dictate what this is going to look like. And for me, that's what's so fun about this, is you can kind of really tweak a scene, or you can have a character and you can kind of play around with it, and it kind of speaks to you a little bit more. So what you may be thinking in the beginning is a little bit different for what this is going to look like at the end. And I could definitely say for this character here, what we ended up with was not what I was originally thinking, but it was something that was similar to what we were going for, but it kind of created itself in the process. So that's a super cool aspect, especially doing this within 3D, is you can always discover something different or something new, and you can kind of really take it from there. Or stuff you learn in previous projects, you can obviously bring it into new projects. And sometimes you find that by just kind of going about the process, or messing up in some sort of way, you kind of learn a new look or a new technique that you can kind of use elsewhere. So similar to our original process at the beginning of this video here, I'm just going to delete a few of our portions of our head just to kind of create somewhat of a cool design. We know a little bit more about what the head's going to look like now, just based off of what we did originally. So we know what we like and what we don't like here. And so again, similar to the reference, we need some portions within the head that is missing, so we can see a lot of those different mechanical pieces here. And so what I'll do is just bring up the Redshift render view again, and we applied that cool pearlescent white onto our head here. And so again, what's cool is we can see the head, we can see portions of the skull, and a lot more of the mechanical pieces that we are putting in here. So I think originally in the beginning we were a little too excited to kind of roll into this, and I started to apply a lot of different layers. And so really just kind of getting back to the foundation of the piece, which was the skull, it kind of helped us build it from there. So definitely a big lesson learned there, not to really jump into it full head on. If we can kind of establish a good foundation and kind of work our way from there, that's probably the best way of going about this piece here. So I'll just kind of take this chunk here and delete this. And then kind of delete this around the forehead. And then I'll just delete this bottom half of the jaw area here and just kind of clean that up. And then we'll just kind of go down the cheek area here with this line. And then we'll delete this other portion of the forehead here. And then just kind of take a line all the way back to the back end of the head here. And then just kind of give it a quick save. Next, we have this cool looking piece from Kitbash here that we still need to adjust. So I'm just going to kind of deuce down the size here and then just kind of line this up to the outer portion of our head. And so this will be kind of cool because it'll attach to the top piece of this head here and then have the bottom three connectors here kind of attached to kind of near the eye area here. And so I'll just kind of line this up to this just so it's nice and flush onto our piece here. Really, I'll just kind of rotate this and adjust this. And then actually what I'll do is just delete this segment here. Actually, what I'll do is just increase the segments real quick again. And then we'll just have a lot more polygons to play with to delete here. So I'm just going to delete a few of these. And then I'll just adjust the camera and delete the rest. Cool. So what I'll do is bring in a symmetry and just throw our shape into the symmetry here, just to make sure that happens on both sides here. And then what I'll do is bring up the Redshift render view here and just kind of see what this looks like within the render view here. And yeah, that looks pretty cool here. It's looking good so far. We'll continue on. What I'm going to do is go back into Kitbash here. And then what I'll do is just kind of select a few of these here. And these rings are actually pretty cool. So I'm just going to bring these rings in real quick and then just kind of adjust it to our skull here as far as the size goes. And then I'll just rotate this and bring this down. And then really I'm just trying to line this up with the shape of our skull here. Actually, let's move this over to the front portion and then I'll rotate this a bit and bring this down. What I could do is just do a few different other shapes in the back portions. And then this shape is somewhat interesting here. And I think this would be kind of cool to put down near the bottom of the jaw here. And so I'll just kind of bring this in to our scene here and then just kind of reduce down the size. And then I'm just going to kind of line this up again to the bottom of the jaw. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of delete some of this geometry, just because really I like what it looks like in the middle here with this cool looking piece. Cool. So what I'll do is bring in another cylinder here, and what I'll do is copy and paste this cylinder here, and I'll just make a few different almost like tubes wrapping around the skull, or some sort of cables within the skull. And so I'll just kind of copy and paste a few of these here, and then just adjust some of these sizes to kind of create some sort of variety within the cables that we have here. And then to finish this up for today, I'm just going to bring up the Redshift render view here just to see what that looks like. And yeah, so we're making pretty good progress on this so far. We brought in a lot of really cool shapes here, and we kind of started the foundation of our character. So I think right now is a good time to stop. Let's actually hop into the wrap up section and finish this thing off. All right, so hopping into the wrap up portion of this. So this is part one of our character here. I wanted to kind of create a foundational piece to kind of work off of. So we created our head here. It was kind of a tougher process in the beginning, kind of figuring out what we wanted to do or how we're going to go about this piece. And so I think what we learned, or what I definitely learned for this, is to kind of start out bare minimum. I was pretty pumped up for this, and so I kind of started with multiple layers, and it just kind of became too much too fast. So it was cool to kind of restart there, and was able to kind of build this up. I included that into the video here and didn't cut that portion out, just so you guys can kind of see my entire process here. This really isn't much of a tutorial, like a really how-to, but this is really to kind of show you guys the process of creating a character kind of in real time here. And so with this, I will slowly start to make the rest of the body and just make the rest of the character here. So I'm hoping to kind of keep this to maybe 4 or 5 parts, but we'll kind of see how this kind of lines up here. So let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, comments, or just things in general you want to chat about, go ahead and throw that down in the comment section. If you like this video, feel free to give me a like so I can kind of know what you guys want to see. But other than that, I'm really excited for this one. I really haven't done any sort of character design before. It's primarily just been a lot of different landscapes or architecture in general. And so this is my first shot at some sort of character design made exclusively within Cinema4d and Redshift. So we're not using ZBrush or any other like character design program at all. We're just kind of making this from scratch within Cinema4d. So that was pretty much it for the video today. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on part 2.